Hey guys, sorry we couldn't get together for class today, but I just wanted to show you briefly what you should be thinking about for Chapter 7 when it comes to grammar. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know on Thursday. But we'll dive right in here. I'm going to try to keep this relatively short. So we'll be working on linguistic analysis on Thursday as well, which basically can take three different forms right now. Either a more phonological look into it, where we zoom all the way in to examine sequences of sounds that can be represented by the phonetic alphabet. And that's kind of what we did in chapters 3 and 4, what you do with your IPA chart that I handed out. So that's one type of linguistic analysis. And then the second one, at a little bit, if you zoom out a little bit further out magnification, you can examine sequences of morphemes. And those morphemes are the parts of words, the units, the basic units of words that we talked about in chapters 5 and 6. And then now for this week, we're taking another step back, looking at grammar and syntax, which is really chunks of words or word order, looking at the structure of phrases and sentences. So phonology, specific sounds. Take one step back, you get morphology, which is parts of words. And then grammar and syntax look at complete words and word order. So there's a great chart in your book with parts of speech, but you can always also take a look at this one if you want to, just showing you the different parts of speech in the English language. And then just want you to keep in mind that these are your basic components of grammar. So later on when we diagram sentences, for example, you're going to use abbreviations for these parts of speech in those diagrams, and we'll talk about what those abbreviations will be. Agreement, our favorite thing. As ESL instructors, trying to teach students how to put together sentences with the correct subject-verb agreement is really challenging because a lot of subjects act like singular nouns, but then they're actually plural nouns and vice versa. So this is something that's really important to learn as native speakers the first time through, and then really important to understand if you're ever going to try to go about teaching English to another speaker of another language. Grammatical gender is different than how we normally think about gender. How we normally think about it is male or female, right, indicating the sex. However, if you've ever spoken a language like Spanish or German or lots of languages where there's grammatical gender as well. And it has to do with nouns, and the nouns are either masculine or feminine in the case of Spanish, or masculine, feminine, or neutral in the case of German, for example. We'll come back more to this idea of grammatical gender maybe when we talk about your second paper coming up. Okay, so a prescriptive approach to describing English grammar or a descriptive approach, which is better? Well, in the past we took a very prescriptive approach, trying to tell people what is correct grammar and how you should speak in order to have proper English. So for example, if you look in that little box down here at the bottom, you'll see it says the subject of a sentence must agree with the verb, subject-verb agreement, which we just talked about. So the instructions are clear, not the instructions is clear. However, descriptive grammar is what linguists are really interested in studying today, and it basically is a way of describing what people say. So getting that written down and how they say it. So for example, some English speakers in certain regions will say, I don't have nothing. And they use this double negative, which back in the day when prescriptive grammar was upheld, that would be incorrect, right? And they would try to correct any English speaker who formed their sentence with a double negative like that. But today we find it more interesting. We want to understand why and capture the different dialects and how people approach grammar in different places. So the last thing I just want to briefly go over with you is this idea of constituent analysis. And what that is looking at the constituent parts, the different parts of a sentence. So for example, we've got in English subject, verb, and object. SVO is our standard word order in English. And as you know from your readings, there are many other word orders in other languages, and that can be one of the biggest challenges for students who come from speaking a different language where your word order is not the same as in English. So making them aware of that can be really helpful. So this idea of constituent analysis, you can kind of see it diagrammed in these two trees here. So this is interesting. It's the exact same sentence. I shot an elephant in my pajamas, and I think it's discussed in the book as well. But depending on how you define the different parts of the sentence, you'll end up with a different analysis, a different understanding of what it means. So they'll both start out with the subject, right? And in your subject, you've got NP, which stands for noun phrase. Same in both, I. But then when we get to the verb phrase, things start to change a little bit. In the first one, on the left, the verb phrase starts with the verb shot, and then it's followed by a noun phrase with the determiner an, and then the noun elephant. I shot an elephant, and that could stand alone, right? Now go over to the right diagram, the diagram on the right, and here you've got shot, I shot, on its own, and then we get to the noun phrase, an elephant in my pajamas. So here, this whole noun phrase goes together, and here we would understand that the elephant is in the speaker's pajamas, is wearing the speaker's pajamas, right? Versus over here, I shot an elephant is separate from in my pajamas. So in this case, it means I was wearing my pajamas when I shot the elephant. So this kind of diagramming is really interesting, and we'll be doing some more of it again in class on Thursday. I'm looking forward to class on Thursday. I hope that most of you will be able to make it. I hope you stayed safe today, and if you get a chance, please look over the other homework tasks that you didn't complete. You can either look on D2L and see how some of your classmates answered those questions. You can try to work it out for yourself, use the study guide to look up your answers. All that's really good stuff, and it's going to help you out for your exam, which is coming up in just a few weeks. So y'all are doing great. I'm working on your papers, and I'm going to get them back to you just as soon as I can. Thanks so much for hanging with me today, and we'll see you on Thursday.